Hey, how you guys doing? Max here. And in this video, I want to talk about the recent Apple car news, and I also want to talk about the engineering behind it, as well as possible stock implications that this might have for Apple, Tesla, and any third parties that Apple might partner with. Now let's get started. So scouring the internet, this is the most recent information I was able to find. I want to quickly summarize it before we dive into the engineering and the stock analysis of it. So what we know so far is that the project was actually kicked off back in 2014, and it's been kind of off and on since that point. What we do know with the recent news articles that came out is that they're claiming to have breakthrough battery technology and wanting to release the car in 2024. And this breakthrough battery technology is referring to a monocell design that they're currently working on for the vehicle. So it is going to be an electric vehicle. And what the monocell design does is it gets rid of the pouches and modules that usually will take up space, and it creates more room for active chemistry that you're able to use to actually drive for longer ranges and everything like that. They are claiming to use lithium iron phosphate, and this does have some good benefits when it comes to cost considerations and also thermal management of the battery pack. However, nothing in life ever comes for free, so this does have some negative implications such as less power density, it also weighs more, and oh, right, it also has a shorter lifespan and slower charging speeds. Also, for the last several years, Apple has been developing some driverless technology, and recent news goes to show that they're actually working on releasing a car as well on top of the technology that they have been developing. As previously stated, it was actually thought that they would develop the driverless technology and outsource it to other car companies that would be competing with companies such as Tesla. Now, according to one respected Apple analyst, he does claim that this is going to be the next star product for Apple, and it's going to be revolutionary due to its hardware and software integration, which Apple is known for and does really well so far with the iPhone and their Apple ecosystem. And knowing Apple, they'll probably require you to use the latest iPhone in order to unlock the car if that ever happens. But let's get into the engineering of it. So this nanocell is particularly interesting because I had to scratch my brain for a while to figure out if it's even possible. Monocell, so referring to one singular cell. So what they're getting at here is that the entire battery pack, instead of being made up of thousands and thousands of cells, it's actually made up of one giant cell that doesn't need pouches, doesn't need all the modules that all the current battery technology has. And that's great and all, but how do they accomplish that? And does it actually work out? If you're confused, so was I. You see, a battery cell has a nominal voltage around 3.7 volts. And if you think about it, in order for you to power a vehicle that is 250 kilowatts, you would need 67,000 amps. And that is a lot of amps because currently, if you look at a Tesla superchargers, those push 800 amps, and that's insane amount of current already. So imagine 67,000 amps. That would be crazy, right? And with that many amps, obviously come massive losses. There's gonna be huge resistances. And being a mechanical engineer, I typically look at electrical engineering as fluid power, and that makes a lot of sense. And it's often compared in the industry and how they'll actually ask a mechanical engineer if they truly understand how electrical engineering works, how electrical power works, and so on. And I want to make an analogy for you guys that I think will clear things up and help you understand the concept. So let's take this cranberry juice, for example. It hasn't been cracked. It's fully charged, you can say. So let's say this is nominal 3.7 volts. Now it hasn't been cracked, and that voltage can be compared to pressure inside this vessel here. So 3.7 volts is equivalent to pressure inside this vessel. Now this is regardless of the size of the vessel. Pressure is pressure, voltage is always voltage. And if you think of current as water flow, or the flow of water, or the rate that the water is being poured into this bottle, it all starts to make sense. Now, this is the current pressure of the bottle. If I squeeze on the bottle, it's resisting me squeezing on the bottle because there's pressure built up inside. However, if we crack the cranberry juice and we pour some out, all of a sudden, because there's air now, or basically room to breathe, there's essentially less pressure inside just because you created some room. So a battery cell is the exact same way. If you give it too much voltage, then it's gonna explode eventually. So the cell and the casing around the cell is going to experience the same thing as this cranberry juice here. As you try and put more fluid into it or more current and you try to charge it up past 3.7 volts, it's just gonna keep going and going and going until it fails due to overvoltage of the cell. And if you think about it, an electrical vehicle has thousands of cells. Tesla actually has 7,000 cells in it, somewhere around that number. So it's making this concept of monocell completely electrochemically impossible unless there's something that we're all missing and we completely don't understand that Apple engineers have been able to figure out. However, having said that, Elon Musk himself tweeted out that this is electrochemically impossible and that the voltage of the pack would be 100 times lower because of this. And what he's referring to is exactly what I just explained with the cranberry juice and the pressure inside the vessel, is that Tesla is running at 375 volts. Now, if you divide that by 100, you get exactly 3.7 volts that I was talking about for a single cell and what a single cell can handle in terms of voltage and in terms of pressure if you think about it as a vessel. However, we shouldn't be ignorant to the possibility that they could develop something astronomically different from what currently exists and what the current laws say. However, having said that, I do think that they're using the term completely loosely, and they might mean that they're just joining a bunch of cells together and holding them together with epoxy, similar to the strategy that actually Tesla recently employed and revealed on their battery day and is gonna be implementing. And that's exactly what Elon Musk said as well. And the reason why we shouldn't be so ignorant is just 100 years ago, the electric car actually did already exist and they were competing against the gasoline cars, but they simply couldn't survive against the gasoline cars and how much more convenient they actually were than the electric cars. There was huge issues with electrochemistry, and all of that has been improved with chemistry and architecture and engineering throughout the years, making electric car now being more dominant and being the future of today. And lastly, getting into Apple, Tesla, and what it means for third parties as well. First, let's take a look at Apple cash flow. They currently have $80 billion essentially sitting in cash if we look at free cash flow that they could deploy if they wanted to. And if we look at a value of a company such as BMW, which is a really massive company, their market cap is sitting at 56 billion US dollars, meaning that Apple almost has double the amount of cash as BMW market cap right now. That is insane, and this definitely means that if Apple wants to go ahead and start a car company or launch a product such as a vehicle, they definitely have the resources to do it. Look at Lucid, for example, which is another EV company in California that's going to be competing with Tesla. They needed $1 billion basically from Saudi Arabia to get their kickstart. And obviously they're gonna continue needing more and more money. But if you already have extremely deep pockets with 80 billion sitting in them, that gives you a great start. And then it's just a matter of developing the technology, which is definitely not an easy feat by any means. But not having to worry about the money is a great weight lifted off the shoulders. Now, will Apple actually produce their own vehicle? I highly doubt that, just because they already outsource their iPhones. So I could see them doing the exact same thing with their vehicle. They outsource it to a third party. They do the designs themselves and developments themselves. But as far as production goes, would be outsourced. And why did I just bring up BMW 30 seconds ago? It would be highly likely that a company such as Apple goes to a luxury company such as BMW to go ahead and say, hey, why don't you build these for us? Because it's already a recognized brand. They already have the capabilities of building a vehicle. Apple doesn't have to invest into vehicle production, battery production. BMW is already working on that. So why not just go to a company like that and ask them simply to make the next Apple car and slap an Apple car logo on it, right? And another silly reason is Tim Cook actually drives a 5 Series BMW, which is extremely modest for a billionaire executive. But I just found that interesting when doing this comparison. Now, alternatively, the path that makes most sense for Apple is actually to go one of 400 electric car manufacturers that currently exist in China alone and ask them to manufacture their next Apple car for Apple, designed by Apple. That way they can have much higher profit margins than they would have with a manufacturer such as BMW. So what does this mean for Tesla? Well, for now, frankly, absolutely nothing. Tesla is really good at what they do, and they have far more data on driverless technology and just collecting data constantly from all the vehicles that they have. And they're so far ahead in data that it's gonna be so difficult for other companies that are just entering the game to compete with Tesla in that sector. And that is by far the sector that many people believe Tesla is highly valued for. So I wouldn't worry about anything yet. However, we do need to see some more concrete news come from Apple and give us some more clarity on what Monocell means and what their actual plans are. Because right now everything is extremely vague and all it's looking like is some EV hype for some Apple stock. And as far as third parties are concerned, it's impossible to guess which one they would partner with if they do partner with one. So it's the luck of the draw. However, LiDAR and battery tech companies have been trading higher along with Apple stock on this news alone. Thank you so much for watching, leaving a like and subscribing. I'll see you next time.